What if Angelique wasn't falling for Tybalt, but falling for someone she was never meant for? What if Komodo wasn't just moved by the love around him, but quietly addicted to the praise, the power, and the way it all made him feel? What if Komodo's biggest strength wasn't his power, but how deeply people believed in him? Find out this and more coming up next on Free Your Mind. All right, folks. Last time we ended with Ariana and Robert kind of, saying hello to each other, but not in a very, nice way. So now we are moving on to page number 22. Yes, 22. All right. The Lady Dragon knew just how the Admiral operated, just like with her sister Dinaz. She was extremely overprotective of Queen Ariana. Even though she was not comfortable being this far from their shimmering emerald palace, she'd never dare to allow the Lady Dragon to travel to another kingdom without her. Unbeknownst to her, Ariana came and went quite often without anyone the wiser. Gwyneth just smiled, grabbing her friend's arm. She led her to the seat she had prepared just for her. Robert followed behind, shaking his head, smiling at the two of them. The Aavien King loved how the Lady Dragon pretended to hate him. He liked to believe it was all a ruse and that she felt something more so, like brotherly love toward him. The king knew she definitely had a soft spot for his boys. Tybalt and Angelique walked along, slowly trailing away from everyone. She gazed at him, admiring the glow he had about him, admiring the long golden hair that covered his shoulders. His skin is so flawless, she sighed. So unreal. She never got used to being this close to him. I wonder who he is. Does my mother know? She always seems to know everything. Her mind began to sidetrack before she caught herself and looked back up at him. He never stopped looking at her, allowing her to fall deep within the pools of bronze and gold flecks of his glowing eyes. It was something about the way they sparkled that just pulled her in. Truly amazing, she sighed again. As they strolled together along the pavilion's edge, she realized people had congregated. They begged for him, arms stretched out, yearning to touch him. She had never noticed this behavior before. Of course, she always seemed to be completely lost in his gaze. As they came to the end of the platform, he turned toward her, lightly touching her chin. Angelique. His lips parted, and he spoke. She lightly quivered, exhaling from the sound of him saying her name. You look more beautiful each time I see you. Oh, Tybalt. She blushed, saying his name with sarcasm. She tried to play off her lustful thoughts and feelings that pulsed throughout her own body. It's just nice to be with you. He pulled her in gently and kissed her passionately. She went limp in his arms, forgetting the world around her as he did. He slowly pulled from the kiss, looking at her still stuck in it. He began to float away, forgetting about the crowd below. Her eyes opened just in time to see him as he moved from her. He stared wantonly towards her, allowing their eyes to lock briefly once more before he turned and flew away. As the evening progressed, Team Dragon Force split up. The members began to spread along the square toward designated shrines, each displaying the flags of their kingdoms. Groups of overzealous fans waited to meet their favorite dragon demigod. For a lot of them, it was spiritual. For others, it was more physical or emotional. They were the embodiment of the heavens. It's the closest a lot of them would get to touching the Maker in this life. They flew together, hovering right above their colorful thrones before descending down. Leo belted out excitedly, spinning effortlessly through the evening air. The sound of the music, the joy of the crowd. It is indeed a welcoming sound, my friend, Komodo proudly agreed as Leo descended to his designated throne. Komodo decided to move past his water dragon spirit shrine, sinking slowly into the outstretched hands of his waiting fans. He stood amongst them, encompassed by their love and adulation. He closed his eyes and smiled, almost in ecstasy from all the love pouring into him. He had become lost in their praise. It was the whimper of a girl vying to get closer to him that got his attention. She struggled against the crowd, being pushed back and forth. Komodo moved quickly forward to meet her, sliding effortlessly through his crowd. He caught her just as she tripped, allowing her to fall against him. One of her hands fell against his bare chest and grazed across his glimmering waterstone. She looked up at him, his blue hue reflected upon her. "You okay, miss?" he asked her. Lost in the luster of his voice, she finally shook her head yes to the question. "I see you were having a little trouble getting to me." He flashed a winning smile at her, causing her to swoon even more so. His deep, swirling, ocean blue eyes had her captivated. She had dreamt of this moment 1,000 times, being in his arms. She felt flushed as he spoke to her. Was it the warmth of his body against hers? "What's your name?" Komodo asked softly. L- L- Lydia? She moaned, enraptured in pleasure. From her breathing, you would have thought he had entered her. She had been taken aback by both the warmth of his breath against her skin and his enveloping embrace. She grabbed onto him tighter, frightened at the realization that they had ascended into the air. The girl glanced down fearfully at the masses below that stared up at them. "Shh. It's okay, Lydia." He pulled her into him even more so, giving her permission to snuggle that much more into him as he whispered, "I've got you." Scorpio looked toward the sky as some of his fans began to point towards something. They had noticed Komodo and this girl floating above them. "Hm," he grunted dismissively. He looked to his left at his teammate Diesel. The fire god had been completely encompassed by the attention of his own group of worshippers, idolaters, and fans. The mineral god chucked a few innocent dirt balls at his comrade to get his attention. As the mini balls hit Diesel in the head, the fire god looked over, annoyed by the acts of his teammate. Scorpio waved, then motioned with his head upward into the air. Diesel redirected his scorned stare skyward. His twisted features moved into a smile at the sight of their friend Komodo snuggling with the fangirl. Diesel just shook his head at the sight of him, showing this random girl some special affection. Of course, if it was anyone who could be that open to a female fan, it would be Komodo. Always. Meanwhile, Casey just took in the dusk of the evening, resting upon the balcony edge. It was one of a few balconies that extended out from the Silver Palace. He closed his eyes and felt comfortable in the evening air blowing against his skin. The sound of the thunder dragons above being overpowered by the festival below just added to his enjoyment of it all. Hearing his brother's voice cut into that and sent every bit of enjoyment crashing to the ground. Brother, you're missing everything. Why are you up here? Daniel draped an arm across his brother's shoulder. Casey shrugged it off. Daniel saw he was not in the mood for people. No, that was not it. He was not in the mood for him. What would you say if I asked where you had been all this time? Casey thought. Feeling the anger within him rising, he chose to quell his scathing emotion. I'm fine where I'm at, Casey managed to respond, never changing his gaze. In public, he had played his role well, but away from the glam, he could be real. Casey knew that Daniel had no idea that he knew T-Bolt's true identity, or that he had a secret of his own, for that matter. Maybe he should just tell Daniel everything. No, he knew it would just start an argument. Casey tried to reestablish his comfort in watching the sky darken. The prince had thought about skipping his plans and spending time with Joey. Then he remembered that the heroine prince was too busy being Scorpio. Okay, Casey, you can keep to yourself, Daniel stated. Casey just rolled his eyes. There was a brief silence before Daniel walked away. He stopped right at the entryway before speaking again. Casey looked back at him, as he did also. Well, just so you know, Prince Yasip will be spending the night here tonight. I know he is looking forward to seeing you. Daniel's words triggered another eye roll. The brooding prince found such news condescending. He wondered why Daniel would think he wasn't already aware of the happenings within this castle. He was a prince just like him. Casey just ignored his brother and waited for the sound of Daniel's footsteps to disappear. With Joey being in the castle, he knew he had to move swiftly. Casey headed through the same set of double glass doors that led onto the balcony. The prince stepped quietly upon the regal rugs, careful not to be heard. Walking upon the golden bronze floors instead would have alerted anyone to his presence. He moved just a few steps more toward his bedroom. After successfully getting inside, he closed his door securely behind him. The Aavien Prince moved urgently to the wall on his left and stopped in front of a specific section of it. His belly was full of butterflies, as he was always excited about everything that came next. He breathed out his angst, releasing with it a sigh of relief. His blood raced, knowing he was about to get the same fix he longed for night after night. Placing his left hand on the porous wall, he said some very special words. Ek is donker, bloodwrecker. Instantly, a glittery magic outlined his hand, then flashed orange. A doorway appeared, outlined in that particular space of the wall, revealing a secretly hidden room. Though he hated using magic, an unnatural glee-filled smile spread across Casey's face. With a heightened eagerness, the boy disappeared through the doorway. All right, so that's the end of chapter 1. Now it is time for the author's corner. All right. Well, that was the end of chapter 1. Okay, the end of chapter 1. And then next we will begin chapter 2. Now, chapter 2, we get to meet the villains of the book. So we're introduced immediately to the emperor and his lackey. I won't say any names yet, but if you look on the back of the book, if you have a copy, it tells you who he is and who they are, at least, collectively. All right, well, are you ready? Okay. Got the questions all ready for you. Here we go. All right, first one. Categorized reflection and emotion. Okay. How do you think Angelique's feelings for T-Bolt are going to change her path going forward? Man, it's not just her feelings for T-Bolt that are going to change her path. What's about to happen, or what's happening, low key, is changing everybody's path. But her specifically, you'll see. That is to be determined, because you're just gonna have to read along to find out. But real talk, she is head over heels. I mean, head over heels for T-Bolt. All right. Next question. Number 2. Have you ever admired someone so deeply that you started to question your own sense of purpose? What does that have to do with that specific thing? Well, yeah, I would say she admires T-Bolt. And maybe, it's questionable about how it makes her react. But Angelique's no dummy. She has not lost her sense of purpose, and neither has he. You know, um, man, they are in a good place, kind of, sort of. You know. Anyways, next, power, praise, and perception. Ooh, all right. This is our next section. This is going to be questions 3 and 4. All right, question number 3. Does Komodo love the people, or does he love how they make him feel? I would say both. He is all about the people, all about the feeling, all about it all, man. He's such an extrovert. He loves people, and he loves the adulation and the admiration. I mean, it's just great for him. Okay, next question. Can belief in someone actually make them stronger? Ooh. Or does it create unrealistic expectations? Now, in the real world that we live in, folks, I would say belief in someone, right? Your belief in someone else can make them stronger. I would even say that too much praise to an individual can give them unrealistic expectations, but showing someone that you believe in them, giving them a little praise for what they can do, can go a long ways. You just don't want to overdo it. Like people who are celebrities, they get a lot of that, and then they think that they are on another level, and then next thing you know, they fall because they get too high up in their head. Now, according to the book, though, this question, when it applies to Team Dragon Force and the people who are these heroes, I would say no. The belief in them, right, I think strengthens the resolve of the people collectively, right? Having that belief, right? Um, it's what reinforces their feeling of peace and love and prosperity and all that, because they know they have these heroes who they've raised up. You know, they've been raised to raise up these gods, right? So, because of that, they feel safe. Now, is that an unrealistic expectation? I would say at this point in the book, it is not. Mm. So, as we read along, that would be up for you to decide whether or not you feel that they do or do not live up to that expectation. Hmm? All right. The next one is titled Team Dynamics and Tension. Woohoo! All right. Question number 5. What do you think Diesel and Scorpio really feel when they see Komodo floating off with Lydia? Jealousy? Amusement? Disapproval? So, they can't be jealous because they have their own fans, right? Amusement, of course, amusement, because it's their guy. It's one of their teammates. They know Komodo. They know who he really is when he's not, with the power. He's not, when they are not who they are to these people, when they're not the gods and they're just normal people, they're still the same kind of people. Like, they know each other. They're brothers, you know. Disapproval, I wouldn't say disapproval. Maybe kind of like scoff more than anything else, but not disapproval. Yeah. All right. Next question, number 6. Is Team Dragon Force as unified as they seem? Yes, 100%. I haven't even finished the question yet, and I'm going to answer that right away. Team Dragon Force is 100% completely unified, regardless of what or how you feel about it later on when some things happen, right? 100% unified. Keep that in mind. Second part of the question. Or are some small cracks starting to show? There's no cracks yet. And the cracks that do show aren't from them, but maybe something from the outside that's kind of pushing at them. Ooh, a little twisty twist there. All right. Well, that's it for that. So, you Team Dragon Force is unified, right? All right. Next section. Last question. Okay, this falls under theme connection. Right, number 7. If you could ask any member of Team Dragon Force one question after this episode, what would it be? And what would you ask? I don't even think I was ready for this question. Let's go with T-Bolt, since that's who we're talking about at the end of the book. I would say to him specifically, why didn't you tell your brother that you're a superhero? If your mother knows and your father knows, why would you not tell your brother? I mean, this brother, he's literally like your twin, who's not a twin. I mean, y'all are or were so close at some point. I'm assuming, you know, he's angry at you for some reason. He's moody for some reason. Why not just tell him and see if that fixes things? You know? Hmm. That's my question. What do you think? What would be your question? Would it be the T-Bolt who we've met? Would it be the Komodo? Would it be the Diesel? Would it be the Scorpio? Leochita? Mastretic? Which one of them would you question? And what would you say? What is the question? That's food for thought, folks. And this is, I would say, a good place to end. So, only thing left to do is for you to like and subscribe and definitely comment about the story that you've heard, right? This isn't about me, it's about the story. What do you think of the story? What do you think of the characters? You know, do you have questions about what's to come? Do you have questions about the next chapter? All that comes out slowly, just like this has. Anyways, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time for chapter 2. Toodles.